During my freshman and sophomore years of college, I was extremely awkward and I had just come out that I was gay. I didn't have any friends, and I was just generally kind of a big wad of social anxiety. Given that, I didn't even have any social skills to make any new friends. It's not surprising that I also had literally no dating experience. Miraculously, over the course of the summer, after sophomore year, I just somehow grew out of the worst part of my awkwardness. I lost some weight and had a lot more confidence in myself, and my self-esteem was a lot higher. I came back to school in August, and by October, I had a decent number of genuine friends and had gotten a lot more involved on campus. With my newfound confidence, I decided I'd finally download Grindr and see what it was like. For anyone who doesn't know what Grindr is a gay dating app that is primarily used for finding sex and hookups, sadly. Despite my recent improvements in my social area, I was still extremely naive and inexperienced when it came to dating and sex. I set up my Grindr profile with a new, nice picture of myself and a very brief bio, and I got a lot of messages very quickly after my picture got approved. One of the guys messaged me and had a display name of Daddy for Young, which should have been my first red flag, because obviously, but I was oblivious. I should note that I really look young for my age. At the time I was 21, but I was regularly asked on campus staff which middle or high school I was visiting from. I'm now 23, and I still get asked if I want a kids menu if I go to a restaurant with my parents. It's that bad. Anywho, so, Daddy for Young sends me a message and just says, "What's up?" I reply without looking at his profile first. I then look at his profile and notice he's 54. His only profile text says, "The younger the better," and his only picture was zoomed in blurred picture of chest hair. So I was very not interested, but given my inexperience, I thought ignoring him would be horribly rude, so I kept responding. I don't totally remember what we talked about in the maybe 10 or so messages we exchanged at first, but I do remember him telling me, saying I was very cute. I know I told him I was a student, but never mentioned which college I went to. It's important to note that I went to college in a major city, and there's a bunch of different colleges, all within like 5 miles of each other, and a few more within 10 miles of those. Sort of like Tinder, Grindr works based off of your location, but much more precise. If you're less than a mile or two away from someone who is online, it will display a distance in feet. I noticed that Daddy for Young profile said he was 25 miles away, which I thought was kind of far. Well, the messages kept continuing, but Daddy for Young started getting more sexual in his chats and asked if I wanted to meet up. I felt bad and flat out denied him since he had been so polite to me. So I told him I didn't want to meet up with him that day, but that we could keep chatting if he wanted. I figured that was that. And then when I checked my phone 20 minutes later, it said he was offline. Nope. About 30 minutes after that, I get another message from him. "Hey, I got a wild hair and thought I'd take a nice drive out to and put my college," and then put a smiley face. I had not told him the name of my college, nor had I told him any part of the town I was in. I looked in his profile and it said that he was now 3 miles away. I started freaking out a little and didn't reply to his message in hopes that he would just leave me alone. It's important to note that my college had a couple of different campus chunks separated by a few miles. I lived on the upper class residential campus, which was about 2 miles from the main campus, where all of the other student dorms and main buildings are. I felt like if he was going to try to find me, he'd go to like the main campus first, right? then maybe give up since not many outside people know about the separate residential campus? 5 or 6 minutes later, I get another message that says something like, "No fun if you don't play along. What building on," and puts residential campus name. "Are you in?" His profile now says a little over 2,500 feet away. And every time I reopen his profile, the distance would decrease. I was fully losing my shit at this point, since this guy had the ability to pinpoint my location. So I shut my blinds, turned off my light, and locked the window and the door to my apartment and the bedroom door. My roommate was also out of town on some kind of retreat, so it was just me. He kept sending me messages every minute or so saying things like, "Gonna find you. Here I come," and other supremely creepy shit like that. The distance was down to 310 feet, and I was completely losing my mind. I didn't know what to do, so I just deleted my whole profile. Nothing else happened that night, though I was absolutely terrified he was going to come and knocking on my door. Fast forward to 3 days later. I decided to re-download Grindr after doing some research and seeing that I can adjust the settings so that my exact location is not visible. When I logged in for the first time with a remade profile, I adjusted some of the search filters until the results were specific enough to display Daddy for Young's profile, which I promptly blocked. Later that evening, I get a message from someone with the display name "Will Find You," with the same gross picture as Daddy for Young, and my stomach sinks. He sent me a flurry of messages. "You fucked up. I almost got the police called on me because of you. Couldn't find you, so I had to go to someone else's dorm and find someone else. Said I was outside his dorm and told me to leave or he was going to call the cops. I'm coming for that sweet virgin ass." Freaked out, I blocked him again, deleted my profile again, and then deleted Grindr. I refused to re-download it or any other dating app for about a year after that, at which point I worked up the courage to try again, and I have not heard from this nut job since. Thank God. For some background information, I live in a small apartment complex right outside of my campus with some friends. I am also a 20-year-old girl, so all of my friends were always bashing me on never meeting up with any boys or going out. I had gotten sick of it. I didn't want to be the little friend who stayed home and ate pizza while my friends were out on dates with boys. So, I signed up for Plenty of Fish. No, I'm not the type of person who would say yes to any random stranger. They had to be nice looking. They had to have plenty of photos of themselves, and we both have to have at least like 2 common interests. I mean, that's kind of how this works. So, with those rules in my head, I psyched myself up to join the world of online dating. Within a few days, I already had 2 boys I was talking to. One said he was a doctor. Kind of hard to believe because he was only 20. And one who was working in construction. Well, that's easier to believe for that one. I didn't like that doctor guy because I just felt like he was lying to me. But one day, I was out getting crap with my roommates. The construction guy, who we can call Dan, messaged me on the messaging app and asked if I wanted to go out for a bite to eat. I told my roommates where I was going and who I was going with. You know, all the things someone should probably tell someone who knows you, just in case you get like abducted or something. I even had a check-in time so that when my roommates would text me, just to make sure things were still good, I had to say some silly code word that meant things were good. If I responded another code word, it meant help me get out of this, for the love of God. And if I didn't use the code words, she would call the police to help. So I quickly dolled myself up and got ready for my date. I put my hair up in a classy bun, leaving strips of it hanging down around my glasses. I put on a nice white blouse and black pants, and I was ready to go. I jumped in my car and headed out to the restaurant where Dan had chosen. It was just out of my town, but it was still only like 15 minutes away from my apartment. I arrived to the restaurant and saw him almost immediately. He was wearing nice clothes and looked just like his photos. He was just waiting outside the restaurant doors for me. His eyes lit up when they saw me. He walked over to me and smiled. We chatted a little bit outside since it was summer and not cold, and then we walked inside. We ate dinner and talked about our lives and things like how school was going and how I was doing. I got the text from my friend. Since everything was all good, I sent the code word back. Dan talked about how much he liked his job, things, and altogether, it was pretty nice. Well, except for one thing. Dan was boring. He didn't do anything exciting or really talk enthusiastically about anything, and it was just boring. It was an average date. I honestly didn't care to go on it anymore. The next day I woke up feeling my phone vibrating non-stop. I looked at it and realized it was vibrating so much that it had fallen off of my dresser. I almost laughed. Then I saw all the messages were from Dan. At first, they were all saying how much fun he had had and that he would like to go back out again. But then messages took a turn. They got violent and angry that I wasn't responding. It was like 7 in the frickin' morning. I was just asleep. I noped out of that situation. I texted him back and said I had been sleeping and that no, I was not going back on another date with him. I was just about to block his profile on the site, and I got a final message. Watch your back. At first I was really creeped out, but then I thought, since I had him blocked and all of my accounts were deleted, he could do nothing, right? Wrong. Later that day I saw a text from a random phone number telling me how pretty I was in those blue PJs. I glanced outside, just in time to see none other than Dan running down my road. How the hell did he get my number? I blocked that number and continued doing what I was doing. Later that night, I fell asleep pretty early and woke up to my phone text alert going off. It was going crazy. It was from the phone number I had just blocked earlier that day. There were dozens of messages saying how I was going to get it. I quickly showed all of my roommates the messages. They all told me that I should go to the police, but since I was stupid, I didn't. I blocked the number again and went back to sleep, but once again, I woke up to my phone buzzing. I didn't wait. I jumped in my car and drove all the way to the police station. Once there, they told me that they couldn't really do much to help me and just told me to block the number again. At least I had it on record now, I guess. Nothing happened for a few days. The number stayed blocked on my phone for a while, but then the pictures started. They were pictures of my house, of me, in my house, my car, my work. I went back to the police station, and finally, I was able to get a restraining order against Dan. I never received any messages from Dan again after that. I never, ever used dating websites again after this. Thanks for watching. I really hope you enjoyed it. Once again, I want to tell all of you, thank you for all of the love that you guys have been giving me. Like I usually say, I'm going to try to stay consistent. And hopefully between 2 to 3 days, I'll always have a post. And also, make sure to go check out my links in the description. My Twitter and Instagram links are in the description as well. And just give me a follow if you want to, or if you want to have updates or get any notices before the videos come out. So, once again, I'll see you in the next one.